Welcome to the Prog Talks by the Progspace. Welcome to the Prog Talks, an interview series by the Progspace where we will be talking to musicians in all corners of the progressive music scene.
Welcome back to another episode of the Prog Talks. I'm your host Dario, and cheers, Joe. Before we jump in, as always, don't forget to get us a cup of coffee, or tea, or whatever, or get yourself a nice cup of the Progspace in our merch store. Helps us out a lot. And now, I have here in the Zoom room tonight, calling from the UK. Joe from the band Poly-Math. Is that right?
That is right. Hi. How's it going?
Good, thanks. I'm really excited to talk to you tonight, as Poly-Math has their new album coming out in a bit. It's actually dropping on November 18. I'm not sure when this episode is gonna drop, but you guys are gonna go on release tour tomorrow. November 11th, you're going to start in Brighton, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're starting at sort of we're split between Brighton and London, so the Brighton show it's just down the road for me, so that's good. We get to start local and then have our big show in London. That's kind of the album launch, and then off we'll go to the Midlands and the north of England and across to the Northern and Republic of Ireland as well. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Very, very exciting, and why is it so exciting for me? I have to tell you. So this summer I was in the UK at Radar Festival, and yeah, there were a lot of bands playing, and of course there were a lot of different sounding bands playing. A lot of them more in the genty metalcore vein. A few of them, like Viriditas, had or maybe Viriditas was the only one doing like a proper old school, progressive rock sound. But you guys were like a totally different beast altogether. And you played the small stage downstairs. Next year the Radar Festival is gonna be in Manchester in the huge arena, so that's gonna be very different. It's not gonna be the casino in Guildford anymore. But I thought for you guys it was the perfect setting. This was like a sweaty club show, you guys just kept on going. And at the same time, I had my like the group of friends I was meeting there. They were kind of gathering for a group picture upstairs at the merch area, and then I went upstairs and said, "Yeah, can we do it? I want to go back and enjoy the rest of the show." And then someone was missing, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go downstairs. Please text me when you're ready." So, and then I ran back up, and then we did the photo, and then I ran back down to catch the rest of your set, and that was so energetic and overwhelming, and I didn't expect this because I didn't know what kind of sound you guys were playing, because I didn't do my homework, I have to admit. So.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, that show for us. Radar Festival was a bit of a weird one for us because we think of ourselves as as an old school prog band. That's certainly like where our influences are, quite obviously and blatantly very, very King Crimson influenced. So we always think of ourselves as that, but we got pigeonholed early on as math rock in the UK, which we're not. But there are a lot of math rock bands in the UK. So rather than being on the prog scene, we ended up very much on the math rock scene, and that's definitely where a lot of our friends are and peers, other bands that we tour with, and so this Radar was a bit of an odd one for us because it was a prog festival, but it's prog's obviously it's a broad church, isn't it? And most of the stuff at Radar was very tech, was very metal. Yeah. And like normally when we play a show, we play in we play in Fripp standard tunings some of the time, and sometimes in drop C. But I think even in drop C, we were probably the the highest tuned band there. Everyone was it was so much baritone metal. We were like the least heavy band there, and leaning on like a saxophone loads for live stuff. We were a very different thing from most of the stuff at that festival. But
I think with bands like Poly-Math and bands who do this kind of mostly instrumental progressive rock, I think a lot of the heaviness comes from the bass and Hammond playing together, like
right, yeah,
kind of the Deep Purple school, I would say, maybe,
yeah.
but also this kind of King Crimson heaviness, of course, because King Crimson are not really metal, but they had some really heavy shit for their times.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very beginning, of course, in the Court of the Crimson King, but also later in the 90s when they were going very mathy.
Yeah. They've been like 5 different bands, in their time. They've kind of done everything. But
so for the people who haven't heard about Poly-Math so far, obviously that was for me was eye-opening that set at Radar. And then on my way back on the plane, I put on your last album, or actually I think it was the first full-length album that you did, House of Wisdom, We Are the Devil.
Oh yeah.
And I remember sitting on the plane and it was like started with the intro, and I really got goosebumps and was so excited to listen to it for the first time on the plane back. And then I just started to dig into your history or what you put out, and then I like the next thing, obviously on Spotify and then also on Bandcamp, I saw was this double album, The Cadaver Tomb, and that was something entirely different. I was not really sure if I was listening to the same band. So before we jump into the new album Zenith, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the progression of the band from House of Wisdom,
sure, yeah,
until now.
Yeah, sure. Well, House of Wisdom for us was like was us trying to make. We were trying to be the most prog that we could be. We'd done a few EPs before then, Reptiles, Melancholia, a couple of things we released only digitally, and House of Wisdom was supposed to be us kind of taking the training wheels off. We were like, we don't care if there's no songs on this record that aren't 15 minutes long. And we don't mind how long we make the interludes and how weird. We just wanted to make something completely for us, which is kind of what that record was supposed to be. We were kind of getting that all out of our system, because we knew even then, we knew when we were making House of Wisdom that we wanted to make Zenith next, and we wanted Zenith to be limited to no songs exceeding 4 minutes in length. We wanted to make like the opposite of House of Wisdom later. So that was House of Wisdom, was us being as proggy as we possibly could be. But the Cadaver Tomb records that came after that, we did have a single that's a 13-minute track called Senses in Everything that came out after House of Wisdom, but that was just a digital release. And then we did the Cadaver Tomb records. They were during the big sort of lockdown period of 2020, 2021. And that was basically, none of us could get together because we've got half the band are in London, half the band are in Brighton. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't get in a studio. We just cancelled a European tour. We were feeling a bit, crappy about the whole situation. Like we have band members, like our drummer, he runs a venue and is a sound engineer, and so his entire livelihood went. And so everyone's like, what are we going to do next? So the Cadaver Tombs were, all of us taught ourselves production. So none of us knew how to make music other than with a guitar, or whatever instrument we have beforehand. So we taught ourselves how to use a DAW, and we started writing remotely together. And we wanted to get in other musicians as well, because we wanted to have vocalists on board. Of course, we're still doing all of this from home, so we knew live drums weren't really going to be an option. We're all in little flats, and so we decided to make it more electronic, lean on synthesizers a lot more. Our keys player, Josh, had used lockdown to get really into modular synths, and had built himself these huge synth racks. So we lent on him a lot more for kind of track ideas and things, got vocalists in for guest appearances. And that was just us. To be honest, we had like 20 songs, and then we were like, should we just put this out for free? We'll just put this out. And so that's all that was. It's almost, you almost have to not read too hard into the Cadaver Tombs records. They're not necessarily what Poly-Math are. We ummed and ahed over whether or not we'd even call it Poly-Math, because whilst it had the Poly-Math musicians on the record, it came from a totally different place. But we decided to anyway. And yeah, that sort of, when everything got back up and running, we were able to get back into the studio, start Zenith, which was an idea that we'd had way before then. And we had some of those ideas we were working on. So that was great. It was great to write music conventionally again, and write largely from jammed sections and then tighten them up and reduce them. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, sonically, from the approach to music, playing it live as a band, of course, Zenith sounds a lot closer to House of Wisdom. But as you said, like starting from jams and then perfecting them or polishing them or breaking them down into like the perfect song that is under 4 minutes, maybe a different approach than just letting loose and say, okay, this can go on for 5 more minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was very different. It was good. Zenith was our first record as a 5-piece as well. First time we'd got a sax player involved, because we'd had saxophone a bit on House of Wisdom, but it was with a different sax player. And yeah, so it was really great to have Chris Olsen, our current sax player, just take the reins and really lead some of the songs rather than being a supporting instrument. So that was a lot of fun.
So did you already played a couple of new songs at Radar, if I heard correctly? Somebody mentioned it somewhere. So you already tested them a little bit live.
Yeah.
So I would assume that they fit really well with the House of Wisdom material or the earlier material, even though they're kind of more to the point songwriting wise.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do a lot of rewriting. We don't really play any of the House of Wisdom stuff the same as I guess we recorded it, partially because, when we did House of Wisdom, we were actually a 3-piece. It was just guitars, bass and drums. We didn't even have our keys player then. So all of those tracks have had to have a lot of rewriting in order to fit into the 5-piece setup that we're in now. But it's not just like it's not just adding instruments. We're in different tunings now, and it would be a lot of effort for us to keep revolving out different guitars every time for each song. So we rewrite the House of Wisdom stuff to kind of fit in with everything else. But yeah.
All right. Mentioning different guitars and tunings. I mean, you're the bass player in the band, but I had the feelings seeing you live that you are kind of the leader of the band, which is kind of unusual for a bass player.
No, the rest of the band would hate me if I said that was true. No, I just get I get the mic duties.
Right.
That's what it is. I think it's there's no leader of the band in that we all write equally together. But if you want to talk about who brings the ideas to the table, it varies from album to album. Certainly, this record has been our sax player, Chris Olsen. He brought at least 2 of the songs almost completely, like everyone's parts, which is unusual. We normally all are writing our own parts. So he was just he was having such a great time, he was coming up with lots of great ideas, and it was really nice. It was really nice for our guitarist Tim to take a bit more of a back seat because, it was his band originally. Like we got together to play songs that he had written. We were all in separate bands, but were friends. And he was a drummer. He's a drummer first rather than a guitarist. So he was a drummer in another band and wanted an outlet for playing guitar. and that's what Polymath started as. But yeah, I'm not the front guy. I just get the microphone. So
but it's, as you said, it started as a 3-piece, but still as now with keys and synths and saxophone. I do think that in this in the Polymath setup and the sound universe, I think the bass sound is much more important, or like more equally important to the other instruments than with your traditional rock band.
Sure,
and I would assume that you're also a little bit of a bass and gear nerd. I don't want to impose anything or imply, but yeah. What kind of basses do you play, and what kind of amps? Or I would like to nerd out a little bit about the gear stuff.
Mate, that is my favorite thing to do. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So me and Tim, the guitarist in Polymath, we both play Fidelity guitars at the moment. In fact, Tim is a Fidelity guitars artist. So they're this great little UK custom shop that make really interesting, like 60s inspired, just unusual instruments that sort of marry all of that, like sort of Italian 60s guitar designs, sort of with like more kind of modern sensibilities, maybe sort of modern fret radiuses or neck materials and things like that. And Tim has a signature model with them, which is part of their JB Light series, which is great. Really interesting little guitar. It's this lovely little double cut, kind of inspired by sort of Melody Makers, Gibson Melody Maker kind of inspiration. And he just has Mojo Pickups make a pickup for him, a specific pickup for him, which is a P90 in like a humbucker housing, but where P90s normally have a big sort of mid push, his just has an awful lot of top end, an awful lot of clarity and treble. So it just has that one pickup in the bridge, and then the controls he just has a master volume, and instead of a tone, he has a tone toggle, so it's either on full or off full, so he can get that King Crimson muffled Fripp sound. And he has a little unlatched kill switch on there, so he can do sort of manual tremolo things as well. So that's a great guitar. I love that guitar. It is actually available to buy. You can buy Tim's signature model off of Fidelity Guitars. It's only about £1,300, which I think is pretty good for a custom guitar. But yeah, he plays that, and I play a Fidelity, their Stella Rosa bass, which is kind of a more Dan Electro inspired bass. It's a 33-inch scale, so it's somewhere. So I get the sort of those low fundamentals that you get from short scales, the lack of tightness, the floppiness that you get on a short scale, which I really like. That's kind of that Jack Bruce-esque tone, from a short scale, but it's long enough that I can still get it down to drop C, which obviously would be a problem on a on a little short scale. As I have struggled with for years before having that. But so I have that, and it's got this great big, this Dynabass pickup just bang in the middle, which is kind of a bit like a Gretsch Filtertron style pickup. So super aggressive, like it doesn't clean up, which I really like. Just bang in the middle of the body. So it's got sort of P-bass-esque, a style of tone about it. And then I have a little Jaguar mute kit on the bridge, because sometimes I just want that very damp sound, and because I play fingerstyle a lot, I'm always dropping plectrums, so I mostly play fingerstyle. So having that in place of having to palm mute is really, really handy. But
yeah, that would have been my next question. Pick or fingers?
Yeah. Sometimes you have to use a pick. If you need to go quick, you have to use a pick. But I'm terrible. No, I'm famously awful with a plectrum. There's a tremolo picked part in one of our songs, Senses in Everything. It's like solo bass tremolo picked, and I think if if anyone watching, if you've ever seen Poly-Math live, if you think you've seen it and I've played that right, that there's a rare show, because I'm not sure. It must be like 1 in every 10 shows I don't completely cock it up. And the problem with playing like instrumental, complicated music is when you cock up something simple, you look extra stupid.
Yeah, but you just have to pretend it was everything. Everything was intended.
Everything, yeah, exactly.
No, nobody would notice. Yeah, actually, I'm as you might have seen, there's a bass there, but I'm not really a bass player. I'm more of a cello player. I play a little bit of bass, but so I don't. Of course, not all bass players like come from the guitar, but I came from the cello. So for me, immediately it was like, of course, fingerstyle. I never really learned how to play with a pick. And that, like, growing up, it was of course kind of a philosophy. Yeah, I mean, why would you play bass with a pick? but of course, then discovering great artists who make that work and incorporate it into their sound. More recently, I would say Mariusz Duda from Riverside, for example. His bass tone is very much built around the bass tone, playing the bass with a pick. Yeah. So I do think it's not only a question of technique, what technique you like more, but also of tone.
Oh, I completely agree. You think like, you want to go for a classic punk rock bass tone, that gorgeous like P bass with a sort of edge of breakup Ampeg SVT, or that style valve amp, that with a plectrum. That's an ultimate bass tone. You get that gorgeous like wall of sound where you can do something simple picked. It's just the root notes. It's underneath everything else that's going on, but it encompasses everything. This is my favorite sort of tone, and it's probably the thing I'm worst at doing. But I can objectively enjoy bass players doing that rather than.
Yeah. So kind of with this little experiment in the middle between House of Wisdom and Zenith. Now with House of Wisdom, you let go and said, okay, anything goes. Let's extend this part for 10 more minutes, whatever. Yeah. And with Zenith, the clear goal was to make the songwriting more precise and succinct and to the point. Where's Poly-Math heading next? A combination of the two?
Post-Zenith. Yeah, it's a big topic. I think we're still sort of dealing with getting Zenith out there, but we'll start to think of the next record. There was an EP we did really early on called La Union de Roku and Demi Penteract, and we still think, certainly Tim, our guitarist, thinks it's the best thing we've ever done. And I think we wrote that in 2014. I think that came out. So he thinks it's the best thing we've ever done. So what we were thinking is maybe redoing that as a 5-piece and adding 2 more sections to it. So if we have La Union, then we might also have a couple of other parts of Roku and Demi Penteract, and maybe release it as a continuation of that. So we'll see. I think that's probably the top idea that's most popular. But we are doing a split, a little split LP with a band in South America. That's coming up. So we need to write and record something for that. So we'll see what we end up doing. There. There's lots of stuff from the half-done stuff from when we were a 3-piece that we'd love to revisit and work on as a 5-piece. So I think maybe looking in the archives for some of our older ideas might be a lot of fun.
Very, very, very interesting and very exciting. For you people out there, if you want to keep up to date what Poly-Math is up to, don't forget to like and subscribe to their social channels. You'll find the links everywhere, anywhere, I don't know. You will find them in the description, and we will also put them on the screen. Thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
All the best for the tour and the release of Zenith. I do hope you can bring the tour maybe also to mainland Europe. I would love to see you guys live again.
We are, in fact. I think we're about to announce that. I think like March. I think we're coming, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Sounds great. March is going to be a big prog month. I think Haken and Lepres are also on tour. Haken with BT Bam, Lepres with Monuments, and Devon is going to be on tour, and with Carnival.
Yeah, it's a big month. It's going to be a big month.
All right. Yeah. See you then, I would say. Keep your eyes peeled, people of the internet, what Poly-Math is going to be doing next. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of your loved ones, and keep spreading that prog love.
The Prog Talks, produced by the Progspace.